Hello everybody, Sebastian here. We're back, Spin Driving School. And in today's video, we are going to take a look at safe gaps. So essentially a distance that you should take when going through intersections, in particular when turning right at red lights or at two-way stop signs. But essentially anywhere when and where you have to yield or adhere to someone else who may have the right of way ahead of you, which generally, let's say, would be pedestrians if you're turning right on the green light, unless someone is jaywalking. But again, mainly when you're turning or going through two-way intersections or turning right specifically at a red light. But let's say anytime you're going through the intersection, as long as the intersection is clear and safe. So the concept is that if you're facing a stop sign and someone else doesn't, they will have the right of way. That it's going to be a two-way intersection, or let's say one-way, or if you're turning at a red light. I made a video recently pertaining to four-way and two-way intersections. So that video may also answer some of these questions. And if you want, you can go check that out. The concept is very simple. Don't turn in front of someone else if they do have the right of way. So if you're facing a stop sign, specifically if it's a two-way, you need to creep up and improve your visibility and make sure that you are not just turning in front of someone else. So the distance or the gap between you and the other vehicle or any other road occupant or sidewalk occupant, it could be a cyclist or a pedestrian, you need to make sure that the distance between you and that vehicle or that said object that is probably going to be in motion needs to be, big or long enough so that when you turn or you move from point A to point B, you're not interfering with that object or vehicle or whatever it is. So you have to, again, make sure that when you're going through intersections or when you're moving from point A to point B, that you have enough space and distance between you and any other vehicle that may also be moving through the intersection. Whether it's controlled or uncontrolled, there needs to be safe distance between you and the other vehicle. And as I've said before, I don't want to keep stressing this, but usually these moments happen, or at least during road tests, and a lot of times people fail in these situations because they don't adhere to vehicles that may or do have the right of way in that instance, right? So again, if you have a stop sign, if you're facing a stop sign and someone else doesn't, they have the right of way. If you have a red light and someone else has a green, they have the right of way. So essentially the concepts are kind of the same, but as I always say, it depends on the situation and circumstances. So I'll get into some examples and we'll try to make it as clear as possible. So let's just get to it. One thing I did forget to mention in the intro, you need to make sure you look out for safe gaps in all situations. This video is specifically pertaining to safe gaps in intersections, but whether you're making lane changes, merging on the highway, etc., make sure that you have a safe gap. So if you look at this picture here, this is from an ICBC book, and this one, probably I should have put this one in my two-way versus four-way intersection video, but essentially the concept here is that the vehicle that is green has the right of way. The red vehicle has a stop sign, so you have to make sure that you give the right of way to the vehicle that has the right of way. And when you're turning from that stop sign, or moving from that stop sign, again going from point A to point B, you have enough space and distance, and you're able to judge the distance and the speed of the vehicles approaching, whether it's vehicles from both directions or whatever it is. So bear that in mind. Now let's get into these videos. This red vehicle is creeped out a little bit too far, but if you notice, they have a stop sign. So that's the red vehicle behind him. Okay, so that means I have the right of way and any vehicle that's in front of me or behind me. Which in this case, this vehicle is yielding and they're a little bit too far, which can be scary for some drivers, but that's the way it should happen. Where in this case, if you notice, so check out the Tesla over there. There's a stop sign. Essentially, it's a one-way intersection, same situations as last time. This is what happens when you don't take safe gaps. You get into accidents. Everybody was okay. Same thing here. I mean, that was just a shit show of a turn. Two-way intersection. I just don't understand how people drive sometimes, but none of those turns were done with a safe gap. Who has the right of way here? Always oncoming traffic. Turning on the yellow, and we almost got into an accident. And just FYI, I might have said this before in the beginning, but this is not me driving in any of these videos. This is all my students. Same intersection, very similar situation. Vehicle turning left. Now the truck is moving over to the other lane, which they may be going straight. So if they're going straight, we need to give them the right of way. So we need to make sure we have a safe gap before turning in the intersection. It's very simple. Now the truck seems to be pulled over. So we're just going to turn since both lanes are blocked and it's clear. The vehicle on the right hand side here has a stop sign. I don't. I have the right of way. They are not taking a safe gap, and they probably also should have yielded to the pedestrian. So again, you need to make sure you have enough space and distance between you and the other vehicle. You need to be able to judge the speed and the distance of vehicles approaching. Stop and wait for oncoming traffic. Once the oncoming traffic stops and we have a safe gap and distance, we clear the intersection as quickly and safely as possible. Always taking safe gaps when moving through the intersections or from point A to point B in any situation. That's not a safe gap. You do this on your road test, that's an automatic fail. You do this in real life, you probably get into an accident. And most common accidents are usually when someone's turning left, generally speaking. Who has the right of way here? Me. It's a two-way intersection. People just stop, look both ways and go instead of creeping up and adhering to traffic rules and regulations properly. Oncoming traffic has the right of way. That's not a safe gap. Now here we have an all-way intersection, just the same as a three-way or a four-way stop. So I should be next in line after this truck. However, this vehicle on the left-hand side, lady in a Mazda, thinks otherwise. So that's not a safe gap. Same thing here. I have the right of way as the vehicle going straight. I was not yielded to. It's just what happens, unfortunately. Zero respect for the rules or safety of other drivers. If you're turning left, like in this case, this is a safe gap. There's no oncoming traffic after the cyclist. Now there's snow on the ground, but this road is very clear and you should not be turning this slow. So if you have a safe gap and then you end up clearing the intersection too slowly, in certain situations, you can lose points or even fail your road test for not being confident. So you need to know what a safe gap is and then take it when it's safe. Always wait for the vehicles to stop to have the safest gap possible, or the intersection essentially to be clear. Pedestrian control intersection, this one's by the P&E. This one's usually quite annoying and difficult to turn onto. So we're just creeping up and either waiting for a safe gap or waiting for the lights to change and the flow of traffic to stop or essentially disappear. So now if you think about it, the best or the easy concept to break it down to is if you're stopped, there we go, we're turning on the yellow or on the red. If you're stopped and other vehicles are in motion, they generally will have the right of way. Entering on the green, but we need to yield to the pedestrian turning on the left. So maybe that was a safe gap initially, but since we have to yield to a pedestrian, it's, now we have a different situation. So pedestrians crossed, we have a safe gap, and we do turn and clear the intersection as quickly and safely as possible. Can you enter the intersection behind another vehicle as long as you see it's clear and safe? Sure, you can. And you can even complete a turn as long as you can see it's clear and safe as well. So, as long as the light stays green, I would say that's, generally that's going to be key. The light has to remain green. So if you see we're just waiting here, I'm not going to force my way through. I'll wait for the yellow, and when it hits yellow, you should already have learned by that point that if the cars are far enough away, they will stop. So don't be afraid to turn on the yellow if the vehicles are still, let's say, far enough away from the intersection. Now this video here is, I don't want to say useless, but it's very basic because we're turning on the green arrow. So obviously this is a safe gap. However, the main reason why this video is included in this is because my student here has left a little too much space between the vehicle up ahead. So when you're turning on these green arrows, make sure that you don't leave too much distance between you and the other vehicle, because you want to make sure you clear the intersection safely and as quickly as possible. And quickly, I mean in quotation marks. You don't want to give anybody a heart attack, but so again, don't take too long when you're doing these protected right or left turns. So don't leave too much space between you and the other vehicle. A car length, maybe a car length and a half, depending on the speed of the vehicle in front of you, should be ample, but don't leave too much space. So this is why I included this video, because in this case, or in the second turn rather, my student is chosen to take a smaller gap. Now, I get this question a lot. What happens in this situation? Now, there's a green arrow. And again, look how much distance there is. You should be closer to that vehicle in front of you. That way your chances of hitting the green arrow are greater. But, if you make those choices, it is what it is. However, as long as the green arrow, let's say, stops flashing or disappears, and then you still have a green light, you can still enter into the intersection. And don't be afraid to enter into the intersection if the light is green and there's no vehicle in front of you. And again, now you're just waiting for a safe gap to go from point A to point B. That's all it is. Will it be easier, let's say in this situation, to turn on the yellow or on the red? Potentially, sure. Let's see what happens. Always wait for the cars to stop. And now it's probably okay. And you should be exiting a little bit quicker here. Again, these are all my students driving, so if that was me, I would have been out of there a little bit faster, but that comes from experience or with experience and practice. Another pain in the ass turn. So are most left turns without the green arrow. Always wait for the flow of traffic to stop. There you go, nice and safe gap. We exit. As long as you enter on the green, you can exit green, yellow, or red when it's safe or when the traffic stops. Now here, my student has not entered into the intersection far enough, and now you're basically entering on the yellow or on the red. And yes, you can fail your road test for that, or if you get into an accident, you might be faulted for entering the intersection too late. So again, if it's green, make sure that you've entered into the intersection far enough so that way it doesn't look like you're entering on the yellow or on the red. Always go past the stop line if it's green. I have a stop sign here, which means obviously I should be yielding to any cross traffic, and I need to wait for a safe gap. Or my student does, saw a cyclist, slam on the brakes, make sure it takes safe gaps. This is kind of an extreme example, and these are rare, but that's why I included in this video. I'm turning right, or my student is attempting to turn right on a red light, but if someone is crossing, do not creep forward. Wait until the pedestrians finish crossing first. Now, honestly, we probably could have and should have turned multiple times in this case, but new drivers are a lot more hesitant. So my student decided to wait. Now, once the pedestrians have crossed, then obviously you can creep into the intersection if you're attempting the right turn. But now, see what's going to happen here. And, it is what it is. So you have to give the pedestrian the right of way or yield and turn when it's safe. As I said, kind of an extreme and unusual example, but it happens. Now here, we'll be turning left on the green arrow, which means we have the right of way, and that truck and the vehicle behind them should be yielding to us, even though they're turning right. But for them, the light is red, so they should be yielding to us. They're not taking a safe gap, and they just don't give a shit. And a lot of people have that attitude these days, which is wrong. And I just don't know why cops don't give people tickets for this more often, but always waiting for a safe gap when turning left. I know I've made a lot of these videos previously, but I get these questions all the time still. Vehicles turning right still have the right of way, waiting for a safe gap, turning behind the vehicle turning right. Can you follow a vehicle in front of you? Sure. Again, as long as the intersection is clear, no problem. And this will be the last video. So now I have a stop sign. And again, the same concept as I was explaining previously, where if I'm stopped, specifically if I have a one-way stop sign or a red light, I can't go anywhere until it's clear. Obviously on the red light, you can only turn right. In this case, it doesn't matter which direction you're going, you need to yield to all the traffic that doesn't have a stop sign. So I'm waiting for a safe gap, enough space and distance between me and the other vehicles before I proceed from point A to point B. And all these vehicles are turning left. I need to give them the right of way. If I'm turning right here, I'm good to go multiple times, but my student is turning left. So we need to yield, and this is what happens, or what should happen rather. There you go. Once it's safe, I scan both ways and I go. That's it. That's all. We'll see you in the next video. Drive safe.